AEW is now 7 feet taller, 49 years older, and twice as interesting because the Big Show is all elite.
Don't touch that mouse unless you're trying to subscribe. The next pro wrestling bit coming at you in 3, 2, 1.
AEW has signed the Big Show Paul Wight in yet another shot across the bow from AEW to WWE. Everybody on either side of this wrestling war is media trained enough to hilariously downplay any talk of there being a wrestling war. I wrote about it here this one time, it's a dope article. But don't believe the hype, because if you're WWE, this one hurts. The Big Show has been with this company since 1999, back when he first decided to go by Paul Wight. Shout out to him. That same year, Chris Jericho joined the promotion. In fact, WWE is all either of those guys knew after leaving the now-defunct WCW, and over 2 decades later, AEW was somehow able to wrestle them away from WWE's micromanaging draconian fingertips. Wow. It's layers to what has been a wild free agency period for both AEW and WWE. If pro wrestling was a real sport and I was a subjective GM, I'd say WWE is actually kicking AEW's ass in free agency. WWE has quietly signed some of the biggest young up-and-coming stars in all of pro wrestling, from Taya Valkyrie to, no, not him, swipe left, to Rick Steiner's kid, to Parker Bordeaux, who's been compared to Brock Lesnar so many times, his social security number is basically F5. AEW, meanwhile, is signing a lot of old names from the past. In fact, half of the original 4 Horsemen, from the mid-80s, are featured as regular performers on television. They've got Sting, they've got Jericho, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. To compare AEW to WCW during the Monday Night Wars might not be nostalgic enough. This isn't the Monday Night Wars, this is Mid-South Wrestling. From a talent construction standpoint, AEW is banking on star power, kind of like billionaire Ted did before they went under, while WWE is getting younger. But this is pro wrestling, which thrives on theatrics and a flair for the dramatics, and AEW is kicking WWE's ass in that department. A lot of fairly recent signings, Sting, Arn Anderson, Jon Moxley, The Big Show, just felt like an FU to WWE, with some of the WWE to AEW defects saying FU to WWE themselves. Thanks, Jericho Podcast. Also, to AEW's credit, they have made better use out of some of the more current stars who used to be with WWE, from Jon Moxley to the late great Brody Lee. And while WWE does seem to be building its current recruiting class for the future, who knows how many of these young upstarts will even make it to WWE television, given the perennial logjam of talent and what seems to be a broken system. If Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Finn Balor, and Tommaso Ciampa can't get on main roster TV, good luck to anybody starting out in the Performance Center. Damian Priest is considered an up-and-coming star on the main roster, and he's almost 40. Hell, we just saw the oldest Royal Rumble of all time and one of the oldest Elimination Chambers of all time. If WWE's main roster were any older, it'd be AEW. Real talk, Big Show's signing does speak to the age problem that permeates throughout the entire wrestling industry, not just WWE. AEW is doing a good job building up some young talent like Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and MJF, who are all under 30, but amid its own obsession with the past, there will come a time where the seasoned veterans of the world are gonna have to take a back seat, become endangered species, and use their own talent to put over younger stars while gracefully moving on. But good luck with that in pro wrestling. If billionaire Tony wants to avoid being like billionaire Ted, the comparisons to 90s WCW will eventually need to cease. At the end of the day, WCW was a failed wrestling promotion, and those who don't learn from history, like an over-reliance on aging stars at the expense of your future, will be doomed to repeat it.